Hello everyone, we are going to have two major things to talk about today, and before we do that, please make sure to join the Hockey Brigade by subscribing if you are new. Now let's get to it. Yesterday, Brad Marchand, the controversial Boston Bruins winger, stirred the pot a little bit when talking about the NHL and the Olympics. For those of you that don't know, the NHL hasn't allowed players to participate in the Olympics since 2014, making this the first year that players were able to go to the event, and then the league pulled out because COVID, and that's been a big problem for them. Now, in response to all this happening, Marchand tweeted a variety of things where he essentially said that it was BS, his words not mine, and that the players had the right to decide what they wanted to do and to, quote, pipe down about forfeiting pay while being gone, end quote. What I have to say about this is, while I wouldn't expect anything less from him, it's just one of those things. It's just Brad. It's who he is. And I'm not going to take his side by saying he's right or wrong. He's always been an outspoken guy in a usually negative way, just because he does some crazy things, and it's what makes him one of the most iconic figures in the league, or the most polarizing, because he is so hated, but he's also so liked, especially by Bruins fans, mainly Bruins fans. And a lot of this comes down to dirty play on the ice and weird stuff like licking. I think it was a Rangers player a few ago, maybe Callahan, maybe. But yeah, he licked a Rangers player, if I remember right. And he does stuff like this all the time, and he definitely gets a lot of attention. Now let's look at both sides of this. I understand for the players why they would want to go. There's a lot of guys, this could be their first time, and maybe even their first time and last time, because if somebody like Stamkos, something like that, where injuries have plagued his career, who knows if he would make another Olympic roster. And it would be hard for professional athletes who have never got that experience at the Olympic stage to say, okay, we're fine with it, because it is really an incredible thing. The Olympics are fun. And after all, you're literally playing for your country, and you're supposed to be the best of the best your nation has to offer. So I understand. It is just a fun thing for players. And it's a fun thing for the fans, not even just NHL fans, but people that like the Olympics and want to watch the Olympics, and they get just to enjoy what it is. And for other players, it is a great chance to heal up during the break. If you don't make it, you still have to stay in shape, because you have to come back and you have to usually come in at a certain weight, but you get a chance to heal. You're not playing hockey all those days, and it's a good time to spend with family. Now we have to look at the flip side of this. The league, the NHL side, they're dealing with a COVID pandemic. I don't know what you'd want to call it, but there are a lot of COVID protocol issues. Are they all COVID positive tests? No. There are people that are around other people, and that's a thing. And it's really just turning into a nightmare. And like any other sports league that's dealt with this so far, the NHL has lost money thanks to the shutdown they had to go through, and COVID in general, limited capacity, which we're seeing now with Canada. That could be a thing that goes on. And in general, they really just can't afford another long pause or lose star players to this, because of who knows what would go on over in China. And I do think Brad understands this, because later in the tweet he goes on, says something about we have to get to normalcy, which I agree, we obviously just can't keep shutting it down. But again, the NHL isn't concerned about the Olympics because they're not going to be getting anything out of this in their eyes at the moment. They don't feel like the risk is worth the reward. Do I think it's good for the NHL to have players at the Olympics? Absolutely. You have the best of the best, and it's fun seeing these guys compete for their country. And I know that is a big thing, a big marketing ploy right there. But again, you've got the COVID, and guess what? There's human rights violations or reports of it from China, in China. And in a year that the league has just dealt with anything and everything that could go wrong from a PR perspective and how they've handled certain things, they don't need another problem, another thing that questions the league's ethics and morality. It just made sense. Even if this COVID thing didn't happen, I kind of wondered. They pushed it off to where the players decided, so they kind of, wash their hands of this mess. But it is another thing, and it's just something the NHL didn't want to deal with. And for Marchand and their players across the world, it is understandable why they're frustrated. But again, they're not going to be happy with the results. What did you expect from the NHL? Especially Gary Bettman and co. they're going to be the unpopular people because he always makes those decisions that tend to be unpopular. Now, moving on to some quick World Juniors talk, we have to talk about Team USA dealing with COVID and forfeiting to Switzerland due to 2 positive COVID results. And while I root for Canada, this is really frustrating. We all know the US would have likely beaten Switzerland, and it's hard watching juniors this year because you know that stuff like this is probably going to happen in the coming days, and it's hard because it takes a lot of the fun out. Relegation isn't in there, which isn't the biggest deal for me this year, but impacting things like this, where Switzerland gets this 1-0 win because I guess they're just going to give him a goal. But yeah, it is one of those things where I'm not thrilled about it, and it is frustrating this year. And I guess on the bright side, again, there is no relegation, but I don't know. It's turning into a headache, and I hope that it turns out to be fun instead of just getting shut down or something like that. But we'll have to see where it goes. Also, huge shout out to Owen Power for being the first Canadian defenseman to score a hat-trick in World Juniors history. So that is really cool for him. Tomorrow, I'll be talking a little bit more about World Juniors in general, and just I think it'd be really fun to do a Hockey for Beginners video on that, because for people that are new, it could be a little confusing, as well as people that are even into hockey now. It can be a little weird how that works, and hopefully that will give people more of a consensus during this confusing time. Now, also, sorry if this video is all over the place. It's just one of those things. It's hard because you're dealing with a lot of just wild content, and Brad just does what he does, and it's fine because it gives me more stuff to talk about with him. And yeah, so what are your thoughts on the Rats' comments about the Olympics as well as World Juniors? Is it fun this year, or is it the worst it's been in years because this shutdown and just the forfeiting and stuff like that? Let me know down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. I appreciate it so much. So one day we can get to where we are doing this full time and pumping out multiple videos a day. Everybody, stay safe. Have a great night. Eagle of Hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.